just a reminder. Here we go. We're recording now. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. I'm super excited because we have Mimi Herman here today. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We will open again to submissions in August, and we only take poems that have been rejected elsewhere. And yes, we love rejects. It's amazing the kind of amazing poems that we get. And I heard there was a rumor at one point that somebody was going to start a magazine of just our rejects that was going to be called Bastards of Redheaded Stepchild. I really kind of wish somebody would do that too. I think it's a brilliant idea. And they would still get fabulous poems. Okay, I'm letting somebody in right now. So just a little bit about Mimi. Besides being an amazing poet and a dear friend, she's a wonderful teacher. She was the 2017 North Carolina Piedmont Laureate and a Hermitage Artist Retreat Fellow, and an alumni of Warren Wilson. Published in a lot of different places. I'll just give you some highlights. Crab Orchard Review, The Holland Critic, Prime Number. Co-director of Right-Away's writing workshops in France, Italy, and New Mexico. I so want to go to any of them and all of them. If you want to read more about Mimi, you can go to her website and also the rightaways.com website. And Mimi, with this newest book, where would you suggest people get a copy? And are you signing them for people? Can they write to you?
Malika, that is a perfect question, and I'm going to drop a link into the chat because I just revised my website today. So you can buy the latest book from the publisher, Finishing Line Press, or you can buy it from Amazon, or you can buy it directly from me if you'd like a signed copy. And there are buttons for all three of those.
Perfect.
On the website at that link.
You make it so easy. Well, I am going to turn it over to you quickly because I know we're looking forward to hearing you read. Mimi, it's so good to see you. I have missed you a lot.
Same here. I really miss you. It's amazing to see all these great friends. Thank you so much for having me, Malika. It's an honor because I know this is a pretty special event and that you've been doing this since March of last year. So you really jumped right on it. Well done. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm always thrilled to hear from you, and to have an invitation like this was amazing. So tonight I'm going to be reading from two chapbooks. I'm going to start with the latest one, A Field Guide to Human Emotions. And Terry and I share something, which is that we have art done by people we love on our covers. So this is a photograph of my dad's. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this book before I start reading, and then I'm going to read a little bit later from my earlier chapbook, Logophilia, which means a love of words. Field Guide is published by Finishing Line Press, and Logophilia, let's see if I can do it with it so you don't catch the light, is published by Main Street Rag, Scott Douglas. So this was not originally called A Field Guide to Human Emotions. It was originally called The Reader's Digest Guide to Human Emotions, because I am like a huge Reader's Digest Guide fan. I love all their how-to books, and to me, this was sort of about how to understand things. And so it got all the way finished, it got accepted, it won runner-up in prize from Finishing Line. They were set to publish it. We were halfway along the publication pipeline when it suddenly occurred to me that maybe Reader's Digest might not be happy about my using their name. So my partner John and I got in touch with the person who could give us an answer to that, and she checked with her lawyers, and they said no. And she was really sympathetic and really sweet about it, but she said absolutely not. So the title changed to A Field Guide to Human Emotions, which is probably a more accurate title because it's not exactly a how-to book. It's more about what they are. So I love to write poems about how things work. I love to understand how things work. And so this is a field guide in alphabetical order of a bunch of emotions. It's not every emotion, it's not every letter of the alphabet, but it's a fair number. So I'm going to start with anxiety because it's the first poem in the book, and because it's something that I feel like we've been suffering from a great deal lately. I don't know about you, but I'm having a horrible time transitioning to being out in the world, even getting as far as Chapel Hill to see Paul. So here we go. Anxiety. Anxiety sets its watch ahead by at least a minute, though often weeks. Anxiety is one foot in a concrete boot and the other trying to get away from someone who is not chasing it, but soon will be, probably. Anxiety has an itchy WebMD trigger finger, which it diagnosed itself. Anxiety is all about the symptoms. If you meet anxiety on the street, be sure to say hello. Otherwise, it will spend all day wondering if it's done something to alienate you. Anxiety is the bastard child of terror and dithering, abandoned by its father and raised by its mother. People mistake it for an idiot, but it knows more than you think. Anxiety will never intentionally deceive you, though it has been known to be mistaken. Bird in hand. The bird resists. It pecks at your palm. Trust consists in keeping it there. Your insistence that bird in hand beats two in the bushes explains the way we understand that wanting what we have, no matter how it eats at us, outstrips 1,000 wishes. All right, I'm not going to show you the house because you will see how true this poem is. Clutter. Clutter is what you can't get rid of. It accumulates in your absence. In your presence, it multiplies. Eyes bear spaces, leaps from shelf to shelf. It is itself an example of the commutative property. It stops at nothing. Clutter abhors a vacuum. It aches for company, is irresistible to dust. It must want something you can't afford to give. It lives to become more so, or so it seems. Clutter never gleams. It is too subtle. Condescension. Condescension loves an echo. Wears platform shoes to dinner parties, with guppies swimming in the soles. Prefers the balcony box for operas, buys extra tickets, then sits surrounded by empty seats. Condescension hates to date. Prefers the following day's dissection in the company of friends who can be derided later. For condescension, the latest fashion goes stale as soon as it hits the skin. Where condescension deigns to dine, the critics swarm around the table, napkins poised to catch the drips, mouths agape for morsels dropped. I really like these sort of snarky emotions. Thanks, Paul. I love this painting. There's a story to that too, if we have time. This one's called Disdain. Disdain strides across a sidewalk square, and if the occasion demands, a city block. Go ahead and scurry. You can't keep up. Strangers open doors, hold elevators, split conversations to allow it to pass between them. Disdain does not have to sign in, make appointments, or call ahead. No one ever put disdain on hold. Spend 5 minutes in disdain's company and you will shrink by inches. A lifetime and you'll disappear. Well, I'm going to go from disdain to the Jacob Cooley story since Malika said I had time for it. And because Jacob Cooley is kind of a master of disdain. I don't know if any of you have ever met him. He's a really sweet guy, but he always sort of looks like he's looking down his nose at you. So this painting behind me is not mine. It belongs to my friend Alice, who lives across the street when she's not living in England where she is now or Australia where she's about to go. And Alice was Airbnb-ing her house, and she decided that leaving a Jacob Cooley painting, these are very, very nice paintings, and he has risen, his star has risen greatly. But leaving a Jacob Cooley painting in an Airbnb house was not a good plan. And so she thought it went perfect on my wall, which she calls Mimi Green. This is my favorite color. Um, and so she gave me this painting for a while. Now she can't take it off the wall because she likes it too much there. But she bought this painting because she was rebounding from her first marriage. And she was kind of miserable. So rather than getting into a really bad relationship, she bought a really expensive painting. So this is known as Rebound Boyfriend, or Boyfriend for short. And this poem is called Fault. I don't know about you, but I'm always feeling guilty for pretty much everything. For a while, I had a jar where I put a quarter in it every time I said sorry, but I can't afford myself. Fault. I never know where fault will be found, so spend most days scurrying around the rooms of my intention, with brooms so thickly rushed that, with absolute attention, the dust in every corner can be extracted, every comma splice repaired, each email answered within minutes, all the chairs squared with their tables, all the tables neatly completed, the numbers adding up to pi. The pie perfectly browned, the filling moist, the round 360s, the straights aligned, the ocean's natural waves restored. The stores stocked, the stock herded with no stray hairs growing from chin or upper lip, no strays slipping off the cliff fenced, the fencers masked for safety, the safety on, the gun unloaded like the groceries put away, like criminals, the criminal intent averted like the eyes of children in the face of evil, which is what it usually seems to me any carelessness might lead to. All right, the last year I think deserves the poem Fear. Fear is the house special today. Thick dust on a fragile plate. Heavy, sodden, lumpy, spongy. My fork sinks, then sticks. If I turn away, say it is inedible. Determination pushes in my chair, presses my chest to the table. No dessert until you finish every bite. Every bite clogs my swallow, makes me queasy. Fear sits in my stomach like swamp mud for days after the flood has receded. Thank you. Free time. You may feel the same way. I'm lousy with free time. It gathers under your bed like dust rats and whispers superciliously about how much you've already wasted before you've opened your eyes. Your anticipatory sleep last night was exhausting. The recriminations of your dreams, accused, judged, and sentenced between blinks of your closed eyes. The entire courtroom, even the reporters, knew you as a recidivist, inclined to waste whatever time you've stolen. You can't save minutes for a rainy day. They must be spent, though probably unwisely, and never as you intended, in your rational budgeting the day before, when you thought you were rich with time, but still allotted specific hours for certain tasks. Now you've squandered them on the cat sleeping in your lap, the papers you've redistributed in piles around your office, the closet that won't surrender anything worth wearing, the movie you've seen so many times, each line echoes in advance. By the end of the day, you're exhausted. So much freedom, so little time. And here's another snarky one. Thank you. Indignation. Indignation perches on the edge of a flat city roof and drums its heels against the brick. To trick indignation is to incur it. It has the best view, the only view, With binoculars, indignation can focus on a single window, zoom in between the slats of Venetian blinds. Other times, it waves a hand to show you it means the whole damned city. If you try to help it down to the ground floor, indignation will suddenly grow heavy. Insist you leave it alone. Forget the weather. Sleet feeds it. A stiff breeze is just what it needs to resist your attempts at comfort or conciliation. Insistence. Thank you. Insistence doesn't have to beg when it meets resistance. It knows exactly what it wants, knows that it deserves it. Insistence is a steady beat on a thinning drumhead, relentless but not endless. It stops seconds after you surrender. It is the force under every geological shift. It is the knock at the door that rearranges your day. I hate to admit that I suffer from jealousy and envy. I can never tell the two apart. I think I suffer from both. Jealousy. Jealousy is a tapeworm. You start by swallowing it. It settles dark and warm in your intestines. Won't come out with the other excreta. Consumes everything you eat before you can extract any nutrients. Bloating your guts as it stretches out. Twisting its indigestible length until it's entirely at home in your body, and you are not. Thank you. Oh, another snarky one. I just love the snarky ones. Outrage. Don't take outrage to a party. It will yell at the hostess and leave her wondering if she wore the wrong dress, or worse, why she invited you at all. Outrage wears flounces, but only in the severest black broadcloth. Takes stiff, thick steps to the bar, then refuses to order. Waits for the bartender to make the wrong guess, snatches the drink and knocks it back, then slams the glass on the marble bar. Outrage spits half-chewed canapes into cocktail napkins, insists you call a cab, then decides to stay anyway, to offend all your friends who have begun to wonder what has become of you. And a quiet little one before I go to logophilia, solitude. Solitude begets solitude the way a little begets less. An allergy to company intrudes with every guest. Thanks. So I'll read from Logophilia, and Logophilia exists because Malika recommended it to Scott Douglas, and I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for her friendship. Not only did she recommend it, but she poured through and tore through this book to help me make it really fantastic. I'm going to read you just some of my very favorite poems from this book, so you don't get the whole book. This one's called The Visualizing Mind Has No Word for No. And it came because I was teaching at a girls' boarding school, which I don't recommend. Girls are a lot meaner than boys. Sorry, Sydney. One of my students is here. Not you, Sydney. Other girls, older girls, teenage girls. And anyhow, we had a guest visit us who was a visualization expert. And I'm right kind of teetering on the line between woo-woo and cynical. So I probably would have been like, yeah, visualization expert, but she worked with Olympic athletes, and I thought it was really cool. And she said the visualizing mind has no word for no, and I thought, okay, that's a poem. Try not to think of a banana. Whatever you do, do not imagine a banana with its greeny yellow peel and firm flesh, or one that has succumbed to brown spots and a certain laxness of texture. Please, under no circumstances, imagine a banana, a single banana on your kitchen counter, where there is also coincidentally not a piece of chocolate cake, thick with frosting. The last piece of chocolate cake as alluring as a showgirl leaning against the backstage door, asking if you can give her a lift. Say to yourself, I will not eat that piece of chocolate cake. That last piece, I don't need it. And as soon as you've opened your mouth, it's gone, startling you with the swiftness with which each bite leaps onto the fork and is conveyed to your mouth, to descend down some long, dark road that leads directly to your hips, where it will take up residence for a good long time. Because morning after morning, you will remind yourself not to sleep in and will miss the gym, which is probably not a bad idea, since it gives you more time to tell your children not to touch the stove and to get out the salve that you'll surely need. This is another one of my How Things Work poems. There goes the neighborhood. What is your liver doing when you're not looking? And those lungs of yours, you try to keep them well aired, but even when you forget, someone keeps running the city. Millions of parasites cling to your skin, take up residence in the tenements of your internal organs without paying rent. They leave their effluence and move on to another neighborhood in a nicer part of the city, or die unmourned on the stomach floor. Who's the mayor? Even when you're busy, even when you're lying in bed, even when, as now, you put down this book and close your eyes, someone is paying off the sanitation engineers while someone else is flushing the sewers. To whom have you subcontracted your right elbow joint, the running of your knees? Who is the crossing guard of your larynx, the cop keeping traffic moving through your large intestine? A billion cells seem to know what they're doing. They punch their time cards and go to work, knowing another billion scabs are waiting to take their jobs for lower pay. Except sometimes, when a whole neighborhood goes dark, leaving you with a heart that murmurs, sweet nothing, sweet nothing, sweet nothing. This is another one of those gift poems. I used to go to Quaker meeting, and a friend of mine, Ann, said, God's not a short order cook. So, God is not a short order cook. God is not a short order cook. You can't ask for one marriage over easy or your enemy scrambled. Can't wave the waitress to your booth and demand the healthy kid special extra syrup. In the same way, God won't whip up an end to war while you wait, won't turn down the heat on global warming, or slip the wrong political party out of the frying pan and into the fire. We line up at the counter, yelling our orders, our asses pinched by the rips in the vinyl stools, trying to be heard over the jukebox, which is twanging out country and western, heartbreak, 2 for a quarter. Meanwhile, God has hung up the egg-stained apron, walked out back where it's cooler and quiet enough to hear all the voices in the diner, or any other and anywhere else, Dopplering like distant traffic, on a road where God is not the driver, but the road itself and the dirt underneath, the air molecules crowding and distancing in turn, and all the grass that used to live where the road now runs and will grow after we are gone. Two more. Bedtime story. Every night I tuck in bed the daughter that I haven't had, then sit up talking by the fire with the son that I desire. We talk until the fire stills, its angry cracks and war of wills. We talk about his college plans. The coals make shoals of our dark hands. Upstairs, my daughter's sleepy murmurs unlatch the catch, and moonlight glimmers softly in my open throat, a window opened up to hope. While outside in the dark you stand, a gift for me within each hand, looking in and wondering whether we can live this life together. And I'll end with a love poem, because I love reading this poem and because John's here to hear it. So this is for John. You may see yourself in this poem, writers. On the importance of explanatory text. I am the sort of person who stands on the edge of the Grand Canyon and reads the educational plaque before looking down. Even in museums, I experience vertigo if I stare straight at a painting without first grounding myself in the title, artist, dates of birth and death, and the various media involved in producing the piece. A little interpretive verbiage is never lost on me. I need words first to appreciate the mystery of art or beauty, which is why I have requested that you take a few minutes from your day to compose a series of labels I can use to keep from being overwhelmed with dizziness at the sight of you in repose, or standing by the stove stirring eggs, or lifting 150 pounds over your head, or suddenly in a crowd where I hadn't expected you to be. I need a label on the dashboard of your car and another on the headboard of my bed, and to be prepared should I survive you, which, if you don't mind, I'd prefer not to do. Could you make just one more label to place above your headstone? Something simple and complete that will help me understand, that will keep the vertigo at bay, so I won't fall off the earth you're buried in. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention. It's been lovely.
Oh, girl, that was just gorgeous, Mimi. I'm sure other people are reeling like I am. That was, I have to tell you, I forgot how I experienced your work and just how much I admire your keen mind. I just love how your mind thinks. And when you were saying the how things work poems, I was thinking, yes, but we also get to see how your mind thinks. And and certain other people delight in that as much as I do, because it's such a fun, keen mind that has a great sense of humor. And I think it's very easy sometimes not to hear all the musicality in your poems, which is there, because so often I'm going, wow, I just love how you look at that or how you talk about that. And the emotions, I've decided I could actually use that book in very concrete ways. So I can say to somebody, I'm page 3, part page 12, and then 15.
Oh my God.
Somebody, Karen just wrote, oh my God, I feel like Mimi is writing either about me or to me in every poem. That's going to be my new favorite quote. I feel like Mimi's writing about me or to me in every poem. I love that. There's a whole bunch of really great comments in there, but people feel free to unmute and just ask questions. We have a pretty informal way of being here, and that's one of the beauties of being able to do this. So ask away. I will check the chat to make sure I haven't missed something. Oh, I did want to say, Logophilia, that was also one of your father's photographs, right?
It was, yeah. That's also one of my father's photographs.
Yeah, I love that one. It's just beautiful.
I do too, thanks.
Mimi, can you talk about your process for writing the 2 books? Like, did you set out to, I'm going to do this and write 30 poems, or what's going on there?
No, I have a practice when I'm actively writing of setting myself a goal of writing 10 poems a day, 10 drafts a day. And then a lot of them are truly terrible, okay?
Wow.
I write drafts pretty quickly, and then I go back and play with stuff, like the way all of us do. And there's a place that I totally love called the Hermitage, which is it's on Manasota Key in Florida. That's an artist retreat, and that's my best place for writing. So when I go down there, I just bring a bunch of legal pads and just write everything by hand. I still write my poetry by hand and my fiction. I type. These did not start out to be books. They were just poems that got gathered. And I just kept looking at all of these emotion poems. And then I was like, okay, I'm writing these. Maybe I'll write some more. Locophilia was sort of like, let's look at everything I've got, take the things that I love the most, and then start paring them down and revising them even more.
Yeah. Well, it worked.
It's a great question. And so I wanted, Karen, you also picked up on that inlines pack some wicked fun punches. Very true. Very true. And that's, I wondered about with your editing process, because you said play with them. And I do think that that's one of the things as a reader we sense is that there's a playfulness that you approach. Not that poetry is not serious business, but come on, it's nice to have that way throughout a poem that feels like the poet had fun writing it. That's enjoyable to me.
Well, you wrote that many people think of poetry as a secret society, but Mimi makes it a party to which all are invited. And that's really how I feel. I don't want people to feel like they have to have the secret password to get into a poem, which isn't to say that poems can't be deep and rich, and because I do want that also. But to me, a poem is a gift to the reader. You know, it's the thing I have on my wall when I'm in grief or when I need to understand something. Like I'll print out a poem and tape it up to my wall or my door. And I want poems to be of use. That's really my intention whenever I'm writing.
I love that. And I think that an intention really does show through. That's a fascinating intention. And I don't think I've heard you articulate that before. That's not something you and I had spoke of, but I can see where that's true. And I think the distinction between having access into a poem doesn't mean it's not deep. Take the love poem that you just read. There's a surface layer, and then there's all this other things that are there that are very multi-layered and very deep and very powerful. Mm-hmm. So it's a light touch, but one that offers a lot of revealing layers to it that I think is masterful. It's pleasing as a reader to have that experience, to hear you read. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I did want to talk about, do you have any ways of editing? What works for you, or how do you approach it?
Part of the reason I write poems by hand is because once they're on the screen, they look like they're printed to me. They look finished, and I'm less likely to revise them. I mean, I'll fiddle, I'll change a word, I'll change a line break, but I won't do anything major. But on the page, my notebooks are, a poem, with a circle and an arrow and a this, things crossed out, 6 words written over one word that might be better but might not, and they're a hot mess, but they're a hot cooking mess. They're like like a cauldron of mess, and so I really love messy drafts. And then when I get them to where I want them, when when I'm going to get to the unching phase, then I'll type them up and do a little unching. And I almost never title a poem till it's done.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was curious about that too, because people work different ways, and that's fascinating.
I want the poem to tell me what the title is, not the title to tell me what the poem is, unless it's a title that somebody gave me as a gift, basically, like the ones I mentioned.
Yeah. Well, Mimi, thank you so very much. I just want to repeat that if you did want a copy of either book, you could reach out to Mimi. She put in you can click on the mimiherman.com /books, and that will get you to it. Does anybody have any other questions before we head towards open mic? And I do want to remind people, if you want to read, please, I think this time, don't even worry about sending me a message. We'll just kind of willy-nilly go around and let people read.
Malika, thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for being here. This has been such a treat to read to you. This is my first book launch for this book. It's been out for a couple months, but I haven't done anything with it. So Thank you.
Well, I am so honored that you said yes, because when you announced that you had a new book, I was like, yay, we can get together and celebrate it. Congratulations. I love the emotions book. The Snark is a lot of fun. And and I like that biting sense of humor is there, but there's also other layers again, that depth to the poems. It's a beautiful thing to me.
I just want to say how much I love that reading. I love your work, Mimi. It's fantastic. Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely want to point out, to get Terry out and watching a screen is miraculous. So
I notoriously do not like Zoom. So
Well, I'm truly honored that you're here, Terry. It's such a treat to see you.
it was fantastic, really.
Thanks. Oh, John reminded me of something that I probably should mention if I were smarter, which is that I have a novel coming out in 2023, The Kudzu Queen. Pardon?
A novel? Fabulous.
A novel. So it's called The Kudzu Queen, and it's coming out with Regal House Publishing.
The Kudzu Queen. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's about?
It's set in North Carolina in 1941, in a fictional county in down east. And the protagonist and narrator is a 15-year-old girl named Maddie Lee Watson, who thinks she's all that, but she's also pretty rational about things. And this is actually based on something that I read. This will tell you how long ago I started working on this book. I read it on microfiche about not a group of men, but there were men who in the 30s and 40s went around the South promoting kudzu and having kudzu festivals and kudzu beauty contests, and the government actually paid farmers to plant kudzu, and the CDC planted kudzu. CDC? No. WPA. All these initials planted kudzu along railway embankments, but we all know
Conservation
about
Corps.
Pardon?
The Civilian Conservation Corps.
The
CCC.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
There you
all
go.
I've heard about all years, the CCC.
Yeah.
So they planted along railway embankments to prevent erosion, because of course, think about dust bowl erosion and all that. Not very successful, as we know. Kudzu doesn't really do that much for erosion. But it does, and it makes a terrible biofuel, but a good beer, apparently. So anyhow, this is Maddie Lee. Maddie Lee wants the Kudzu King to fall in love with her, and she wants to be the Kudzu Queen until she discovers his dark side.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that makes me very happy. Oh yeah, thanks, John, for putting that out. Yeah, it's good to hear about the Kudzu Queen, and kudzu. Supposedly you can eat it as well, and the flowers make a beverage. They do smell kind of like grape Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. And I noticed that you made a distinction between when you're writing fiction, you do write on the computer, and when you're writing poetry. And a lot of writers have that, different ways of doing, even different genres, working in a different method. So,
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing everybody read. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we do have an awesome group. If y'all want to unmute and clap, we certainly can. And that's one of the things that's hard to read in silence with a big picture of yourself. So good job, Mimi. Thank you. All right. Who'd ever like to read, why don't you, or would like to, go for open mic, please feel free to do so. If you want me to pause the recording, just quickly give me a heads up so I can do so. Terry has a new book. Chrissy has a book coming out.
I'll read, but give me a second to grab something because I wasn't prepared tonight. Just give me a second. So let somebody go first.
Terry, do you want to read from your new book?
Sure. Let me grab my book because I wasn't planning on reading anything.
You know how pushy I am, so.
Okay. I'll just make it easy and read the first poem in the book.
Can you show us the cover, because it's real pretty. People maybe have that in common.
It's called A Sun Inside My Chest. And this was done by my uncle, Stephen White. So this is his painting. God, I haven't read a poem out loud in so long.
We're a
Okay.
good audience to do it with.
Mimi's an impossible act to follow, so I'll do the best I can. Loving you burns like shingles. My love for you is a sun inside my chest. It burns like shingles, wrings tears from my eyes like the hands of a tough old woman washing clothes in a tin tub. You're as toxic as poke salad. Your words a swarm of bees. You haunt me like a chain clanking ghost, yet I welcome you like the mailman. You're a zeppelin in disguise, the zip line to disaster. I need you like bad brakes, a stick of dynamite, loose bricks in the walk. But step into a room and my heart bumps its mouth against the bowl of my ribs like a starving goldfish. You scissor cut my will, turn my brain to shredded wheat. Look at me once and my pot begins to boil. Look at me twice and the dog of my desire becomes a junkyard beast, though the feral cat in me hungers to call your body home.
So spicy, girl. That's awesome. Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, so spicy. Thank you for reading that too.
Sure.
That's that's one of my favorites.
Oh, well, thank you.
Mimi wrote, I don't know if you saw this in the chat, but she wrote that her dad loved Terry, your uncle's work.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I love his work too. I have a Stephen White museum in my house, so just
Thank you, Terry. Christy, did you find something that you wanted to read?
Yeah, I did. So my chapbook will be out hopefully later this year by Finishing Line Press, and it's titled Finding Her. And this is the last poem in the book. It's called A Digger's Lot. Sitting alone at time's end, reconciled by a single, let me back up. I skipped a line. Sitting alone at time's end, recoiled by a single notion. Only the whole she herself crafted cannot be reconciled.
Yes, thank you. Wow, Christy. I love that we had a first and a last, the beginnings and endings. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Super excited about finding her. You worked really hard on getting that out. It's great to see so many people that I adore, pulling a collection together and getting it published. Karen's next, and then Celestine.
Okay, I have a question. Mimi, did you teach a workshop for the North Carolina Writers Network years ago where you had people start by meditating and then we wrote about bodies of water?
I did, Karen.
Oh, good. That's why it disappeared. I wanted to read this to you. So this is the poem I wrote during that workshop. Well, it attached during that workshop and it got published in Cadillac 2015.
How cool is that story?
Yeah, so, I'll get to read it to you. So, okay. Yeah, that was an awesome workshop. Although I have to say, I had never meditated before, and that was like the weirdest experience to be in a room full of people and like just to close my eyes in a room full of people. I'm like, oh, what's happening? Anyway, thank you for that. It was great. It was great.
My pleasure. I'm so happy it got published. I can't wait to hear it.
Well, and I should say too, so we had the prompt about the water, and generally when I get a prompt, if I write anything even remotely having to do with it, I usually write about why I'm not going to write to the prompt. And this kind of follows suit. So this is, I am not Spumarrow Creek. I am not Spumarrow Creek. I am not the tributary born of the bubbling up spot of the spring at the Iron Stake where the woods meet the brambles. I am not the split streams fanning out through the cow fields, welling up in marshy lowlands, sinking Harry Davis Road. I am not the runnel, the rindle, the rill making mad, muddy way through gully, ditch, or trough. I am not contained by these reedy bogs, these rip-wrapped shores, these rock-riddled cliffs. I am not constrained, not charted. I am droplets tumbling through leaf and limb. I am rivulets wandering the lawn. I am flash flood ravaging dirt paths through the pasture. I am all streams swelling to fill Carr Lake. I am swelling. I am turbulence thundering through tunnels of dams. I am rivers confluence roiling routes to the Atlantic. I am ocean. I am sea. I am all oceans and seas. I am rain. I am fog. I am teardrop remembered on the lips of the kiss at the heart of the earth. I am mist. I am ion. I am eon. I am song of the peeper frogs in the evening woods. I am laughter of the skinny dippers diving from docks. I am triumph of the cormorant soaring on wing wind with fresh caught fish in beak. I am breath. I am joy. I am sorrow. I am longing. I am then and then again. I am flowing. I am flow. I am not Spumero Creek. I am not Spumero Creek.
Wow, that's
Love
fantastic.
that.
I love that. And I love that Mimi, was the prompt for that. Isn't that fabulous?
That was really fun. Thank you so much, Mimi. I was so glad it found a home.
Well, I love that poem. That's fantastic.
That's another thing that we don't often talk, but Mimi is a fabulous teacher, a fabulous workshop teacher. And I know we have several of her students here. But what a small world that you were in there for that prompt, Karen, and that poem ended up at Cackalack. It's beautiful.
The whole experience was just fabulous. Thank you for that. I hope you're doing lots of workshops.
I am.
Great.
If somebody wanted to get on your list for doing the workshops, could you give them the best way to get in touch with you so that they can be apprised of what you're doing?
The best way is to go to my website, or if you're interested in Right-of-Ways, which are fantastic workshops, I'm just going to give you both of those. I'll give you both of those links in the chat. And just send us a message send either me a message through my website, or send John and me a message through the Right-of-Ways website. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, that's perfect, because I think that's important, since we already know she's great at it, that if you want to be added to the list, go ahead and reach out. And I think, John, will you be willing to read something? Well, unmute you. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. So Mimi will be the first to tell you, I think, that I'm not really a poet, but I've written a few things, and listening to you all has inspired me to read something. So
Yes.
I hope you'll bear with me. This is I think the second time in my entire life I've read poetry to people. So, but this is called Over My Dead Body. I understand the confusion. I will have no use for it, but maybe you will, knowing where it is, means you can visit, or perhaps we can chat, although the conversation will be a little one-sided. So if you must put me somewhere, please feel free, your choice. My feelings about this question are not as strong or interesting or meaningful as they once were. But if you are as indifferent then as I know I will be, then after age or cancer or dementia has taken me, put me whole on a mountain in a remote Sierra crevasse. You may need a helicopter. In 100 years, someone will find me and they will tell stories about what a daring alpinist I must have been and how lonely my final resting place was. And together, God, who does not exist, and I and you, when you join me, will laugh.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. I love that.
That's my mountain poem.
It's a great mountain poem, and a great idea of, or riffing off of where we are after we no longer are in our bodies. What does it matter then? I love that image of the daring explorer being left on the mountain and leaving stories behind that way. That was a lot of fun. You don't normally write poetry?
I every once in a while, my poetry, such as it is very deliberate. It is in response to a very specific need or idea.
Uh-huh.
But I am, for the most part, a prose writer. So.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with people that write in different genres and what what their approach is. So, some people go along for the journey. And Mimi, it sounds like sometimes when you're writing, you're not entirely sure where you're going to end up unless it's a poem title that somebody has given you. But John, it sounds like there's an intention set. I love the different ways that we approach the same craft and that we build our poems out of different materials and different floor plans and things like that. It's beautiful. Thank you for reading, John. Paul, I think that you have something that you're willing to read. Yes?
Sure. This is one that came out a while back, but it turns out to be topical. It's about cicadas. I treasure what they have left behind, these bards who leave past bodies, dirt-covered, clinging, emptied, musicless, enshrined on a string as I necklace them like clover. I've collected an anthology of shells as I hear them reciting the poetry that they learned while in the underworld. Then of their climb up the walls, the oak tree. In lonely moments, they speak only to me. To others, they are untuned, warped violins. I'm soothed by their joyous cacophony, their chant as they suck life from leaf stems. What have they left for us in their rebirth flight? Poems from 3 worlds, hope beyond day and night.
Awesome.
A little sonnet.
That is gorgeous. Has that already been published?
Grand Little Things, which is Patrick Key's sort of online journal blog that's very friendly to formal verse. That's a sonnet you might have noticed.
Yeah.
I have 3 out with him today, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
So
That's awesome.
this one is that one's maybe 8 months ago, but sound and form and the shape of a line tell me what things are about more than sort of the opposite side of John there. The duende takes possession within the worlds of sound and form, and things just happen. So
yeah, so you travel differently through poetry. You travel differently when you're creating. That's interesting.
Yeah, I live in the world of ancient poetic music.
And also, I love how the cicada becomes very mythic and kind of, the collective unconscious in a Campbell kind of, way of the hero.
Yeah, they do this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Cahalan or somebody, they have to live in the underworld a little while.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. This is why I enjoy poetry so much, is because we can share the same art and craft, but have such different approaches. And I learn from hearing people talk about their craft and from hearing people share their work. And so I deeply appreciate everybody who's, given voice to a poem today or been here and shared it. Really, to me, that's the synergy that comes from working together and being in community. And I think that's been one of the things that I know Zoom is a poor platform. It's not the same as being in real life, but this has been a lifesaver for me this Thursday night. It has. Did anybody else want to read? I know I have a tendency to pressure people, so I don't want to pull people out. Colin, you look like you're about to volunteer. I'm coming your way.
Either I live with the regret of never taking the leap, or I embarrass myself, one or the other. Yes, I would like to read. But it is not poetry. It's a short little tidbit. Okay. This is a scene from Cascara, the foggy forest town of mystery and despair. Cuskingo. Kiskingo is the moment you lose control of everything. Time slows down just enough to realize your mistake. You then accept whatever will happen next instantaneously because you cannot prevent the outcome at this point. Kiskingo. Kiss the sense of reality goodbye. A friend once told me what I am currently witnessing in this moment was known as a transcended ego experience. That sounds about right. I should have never taken this windy detour to save half an hour. The roads were too icy. Jack, my everything, my 4-year-old pit bull, was resting in the back seat. The fog was so dense, I just prayed there wasn't another car around the bend. My vehicle began to slide on the slick asphalt. All I could do was clench my jaw tight while my right leg slammed on the brakes. With a great smash, as if the car was a roaring tidal wave of glass and steel, we crashed into the tall trees, just missing the town sign welcoming us into Cascara. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. No, that I love how immediately I'm in this altered state, but also something very tangible, like when you described the the tidal wave of glass and steel. It's very powerful. I also like the idea of flash fiction / prose poetry, and how we can have collisions of genres that are kind of genre bending. I'm good for that. Thank you for reading, Colin.
Thank you so much for letting me share.
You are welcome. I'm glad you were here. Did anybody else want to read? No? Okay. Paul put into the chat section, if you missed it, where you can link to the 3 poems that were published in Grand Little Things.
Malika, don't you have a poem, Malika?
It's at 8 o'clock. No, I didn't actually pull anything up, and I didn't bring any books. So thank you, Karen. Karen's always reminded me, like, I tend to, when I'm hosting these, I get so caught up that I don't think in terms, and you have been such a godsend, Karen. Thank you. But today, I think we will end on the lovely note of y'all's good company. And Mimi, so good to see you. And thank y'all, everybody, for showing up and supporting poetry. What our heart wants when it's broken.
Have a good night.
Celebrating. Good night. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye.
The best, Malika. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Bye.
Beautiful job.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good night.
Terry, it's so good to see you.
Wonderful